One of the single most effective things you can do to change the appearance of your body in the positive is to simply get stronger at the bench press, the squat, and the deadlift. So today's episode, we're going to talk about those three lifts and specifically how to get stronger at those three lifts. Those three lifts are known as the big three.
The three heavy hitters.
The big three for a reason.
I almost feel like we have to hammer this more than usual. I was just on Instagram yesterday, and two different coaches in our network and circle of friends, are making posts about you don't need to squat, you don't need to deadlift, you don't need to bench press, And I really I hate that message. And it's not that it's not true. Like, of course, you could take those three exercises out and you could actually do other things and build a great physique. But it brings so much value, and not just what it can do for the metabolism and sculpting your body, but even just the pursuit of trying to get good at those movements have tremendous value.
Yeah, it's like, look, you don't need to use a shovel to dig a hole. You could definitely use a spoon, but one of them is going to get there faster. And with these exercises, especially squat and deadlift, especially those two, getting the kind of results that most people are looking for when they work out, where they develop muscle, they sculpt their body, speed up the metabolism, which helps with fat burning. It's very hard to replace those exercises with three other exercises. You can maybe do it with 10 or 15 other exercises, but then you've obviously got the limitation of things like recovery and time. But when it comes for bang for your buck, there's almost no comparison. There's a reason why they're known as the big three. There's a reason why those exercises are preferred by strength athletes in many different sports, both in bodybuilding, which is a presentation sport. Bodybuilders, especially when they first start out, do those exercises quite a bit. Powerlifters, obviously, that's their competition. Strongmen competitions. Olympic lifters will do these exercises, even though they don't compete with those exercises. Coaches who coach athletes, football coaches and basketball and baseball coaches will incorporate these exercises in their routines. They just have tremendous, tremendous value. And especially when you're somebody who has worked out for less than a couple years, like, gaining 50 pounds on your bench press or your deadlift or your squat, you're going to see really, really significant changes in the way you look from doing those things. And the carryover for functionality is massive. So it's just, to me, it's stupid when people try, and I know what they're doing. What they're trying to do, and one of the hacks for getting attention on social media is to take a popular notion and to try to find a way to counter it. Because then people are like, oh, what's this thing that I hear such good things about these exercises? Here's this person saying I don't have to do them. So it gets your attention.
Well,
but
yeah, I mean, these exercises are hard. And I think that's just something that's always like pretty obvious for people when they step into it. They're simple, very simple type of exercises and movements, but there's a lot of room for improving on the technique and sharpening, a lot of little nuances that go into it that help. You see it almost immediately once you really sharpen certain types of techniques, and you get into these exercises with all of these different angles of like how I can improve, and you see what that does in terms of how it translates to every other exercise. This is like these exercises specifically have the most carryover.
They do. One of my favorite examples is a personal example. When we started the podcast, Adam was still an active professional IFBB physique competitor. So he was at a very high level. And physique has nothing to do with how much you can lift. It's literally you're on stage and they're judging your physique, okay? And up until that point, Adam didn't do lots of deadlifts. He'd done them in workouts, but you hardly ever did them in your workouts. And then we started the podcast. There was a whole period there where all of us got competitive with each other, and we want to see how good we could deadlift. And I'll let you tell the story, because I remember when you came back after doing this and you were like, this is so weird. Like, I can row more, I could do more pull-ups, I could do all this other stuff, and I stopped doing those.
Yeah, no, I at one point I was primarily doing just deadlifting. I mean, I really started to approach like my programming like, okay, the goal was to catch Sal in deadlifting. At that point, you were deadlifting so much more weight than I was, and I'm like, well, I've actually never tried to apply myself and see if I could get really that strong in it. And I remember in order to do that, I had to eliminate a lot of the other stuff that I was doing because I was focusing so much on either deadlifting, it's like traditional conventional deadlifts, or all the variations and other things that I could do to complement the deadlift. Like that was the
focus.
That was the main focus. So there was things like the seated row. You know, I was still doing some lat pull down in there and things like that that I hadn't done in there. Even lying leg curls. I'd stopped doing stuff like that. And it blew my mind on eliminating those exercises in my routine for nearly a year and then returning back to them and PRing all of them. I mean, and I'm talking about lifetime PR. Like we talk on the show all the time about how difficult it is to see, you know, like big strength leaps in any of the exercises that we do because we've been training for so long.
Yeah, you were already advanced, not like you were a beginner.
Yeah, so you know, I've been doing those movements for a very long time and have incrementally gotten a little stronger over years and years of you know, lying leg curls and seated row and you know, and then I get this deadlift and I take my deadlift. I think when I first started, I was literally like deadlifting 200 and something pounds. I mean, that's basically about where I was at. And worked my way all the way up to 550. And once I got to that point and I returned back to these exercises, that's the only time that's ever happened, by the way, in my life, where I've eliminated a specific movement and for something else and then returned back to that movement and I was actually stronger. That's never happened. I've never stopped doing an exercise, did other exercises, came back to it, and I was significantly stronger. It just it doesn't make a lot of sense, you know, or it's just not it's not common that you would do that where you would leave anything because the body is very specific the way it adapts to movements. And I know that and I understand that. So I wasn't expecting to get under the seated row or get under the lying leg curls and be able to move the weight up to significantly higher than I ever had without doing it at least for a while. And so that was, and then visually what I had seen. I mean, I wish I had it. I got to find it somewhere. I know we've posted it a long time ago on this show, so those that have been listening have already heard and seen this story. But, you know, there's a very clear difference in the development of my back. And by the way, you bringing that up reminds me, I was just watching Jeremy Buendia, who is the I think he's 4 or 5 time Mr. Olympia for men's physique. And he's like barefoot squatting, barbell back,
deadlifting.
Yeah, deadlifting. And he's
so bigger than he's ever been.
Oh, bro, he looks insane. Yeah. He I don't know if he's going to go into classic or what, but and he had a champion physique already and had won, you know, 4 or 5 championships already in IFBB. And so he looked good already, but his size, what he looks like now is he's already and it's only I've been watching him do this for maybe the last year and a half, 2 years. I can't remember you know, precisely, but he's now reintroduced those movements that were not a part of his training, and you're just seeing his body. And that was what I experienced. I'd already been an advanced lifter. I deadlifted and squatted sporadically in my routine, but it was never a cornerstone of my routine. When we got together was when I started to train that way, and the leap that my physique had in that short amount of time was unprecedented compared to anything else.